ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावतीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। So today we will go through, we will see glimpses from a phenomenal treatise of Swami Vidyaranya, who gave us the Panchadashi also. As he had shared with few or in the group, ideal Guru Shishya Parampara will be that he takes verse by verse of this treatise or Dridrishya Viveka or any Upanishad or Avadhuta Gita. Ashtavakra Gita, of course, we covered verse by verse. And he had written in the group, it requires uninterrupted attention of the devotees, disciples, which can happen only in a kutir, far away from this world. So all that he can give glimpse, even post-retirement, can be only glimpses from various treatises. Part 1 and part 2 of this Jivan Mukti Viveka session, all that we will cover just a glimpse. He would love to give verse by verse, even from Kutir, but that kind of an undivided attention and that kind of a status or environment, to be precise, where 24 hours the sadhakas can be tuned only to these verse by verse may not be practical, may not be possible at all, with all of you being in grahasthas. How to do? Okay. The Jivan Mukti Viveka, or the path of liberation in this life, is a compilation from various important works. He has taken from Yoga Vashishta. Majorly, it is based on Yoga Vashishta. The communication, the sharing between Rama and the sage Vashishta. And also he has taken glimpses from various Upanishads and compiled this great treatise. Glimpse of Panchadashi will also be there in this treatise. There are 5 chapters in the book which have been called Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4, Part 5. Part 1 is Pramana Prakarana, evidence of Jivan Mukti. Part 2, Vasanakshaya Prakarana, effacement of latent impressions. Part 3, Manonasha Prakarana, the delusion of the mind. Part 4, Swarupa Siddhi Prayojana Prakarana, purpose of attaining Jivan Mukti. Part 5, Vidvat Sannyasa Prakarana, renunciation of the knower. In brief, the first chapter or the first part opens with a discussion on the nature of renunciation. This is explained, then is explained the nature of Jivan Mukti, the liberation in this life. It is described as freedom from bondage. Is there a thing such as Jivan Mukti at all? This is a basic question answered in this part. Yes, there is definitely a state of Jivan Mukti that can be attained. It is only Vedanta that considers the goal to be nothing short of absolute union with the supreme reality. Can one really be liberated when the body is there? While undergoing the experiences of joy and sorrow, how is it possible to be liberated? Is Jivan Mukti just a transcending of the states of joy and sorrow? Does one simply brush aside joy and sorrow as being non-existent? Vidyaranya takes great efforts, great pains to explain that Jivan Mukti is a state of freedom from all the defects of worldly life. All the proofs that convince us about the state of Jivan Mukti are brought out in this great treatise by Swami Vidyaranya. Care is taken to differentiate between Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti. The former is attained while living and is the liberation attained through. Let us not get into the technicalities. Then it means that sometimes 15 parts have to be given of this treatise. The first part attained through Vidvat Sannyasa. The latter is attained when the body falls off and is the liberation attained through Vividisha Sannyasa. Nature of Jivan Mukti in this part is closed with the following. Though ever moving about in the world of experience, the whole of it exists not for him. All pervading ether-like consciousness, space-like consciousness alone subsists. Such a one is called Jivan Mukta. The second chapter begins with the mention of the means to acquire the condition of Jivan Mukti. What are the means for Jivan Mukti? There are three main sadhanas to attain Jivan Mukti. They are, now we are coming to just give in one word the answers which he asked from you is just knowing that I am Brahman enough, or there are any other steps. We will state the steps in this second chapter. First is Tattva Jnana, that is, I am Brahman. All that Vedanta has taught us, which we know with our sattvic intellect, without the intervention of the manas, chitta and ahankara. Second is, this is second, are further steps required. Vasana Kshaya, the annihilation of the deep-seated desires and impressions. Third is Mano Nasha, the dissolution of mind. In terms of the two types of sannyasis, the Vidvat sannyasi already has the Tattva Jnana, while the Vividisha sannyasi is striving for it. So the focus of the former is on Vasanakshaya and Manonasha of the Vidvat sannyasi, while the focus of the latter is on the Tattva Jnana only. He has gone beyond the Vasanakshaya and Manonasha. He is focusing on the Tattva Jnana. This is not a hard and fast rule, for even a Vividisha sannyasi needs to have some degree of control over vasanas and his mind in order to acquire knowledge. Part 3 deals with the annihilation of the mind, manonasha. The mind is only that function of inner activity which correlates the doer with the things done, which creates the dvandam duality between the doer and the done, between the knower and the known, through the sense of egoism, and creates the illusion which makes up the world. What is the illusion? The doer and the done. The kartritva and the bhoktritva. The next chapter, therefore, aptly opens with the question with what is the aim or the use of Jivan Mukti? The aims are 5. Jnana Raksha, the protection and preservation of knowledge. Tapas, the practice of penance, especially in the context of 7 stages, which we may not get into detail. Visambada abhava, the absence of all argumentation, quarrels, etc. Dukkha nasha, the cessation of pain, dukkha nivarti, we call. And ananda prapti, sukha avirabhava, the manifestation of bliss. This is the aim or the use of Jivan Mukti. The 5th chapter closes with the description of the condition of such a being and concludes the enquiry about the path of liberation in this life. What are the characteristics of a Jivan Mukta? How does one know that he has attained that supreme state? These are the questions that are discussed in the final part of this book. Now, we are taking up 3 important pillars or principles dealt in this great treatise. First one is the gnosis or the jnana or the tattva jnana. Second is the dissolution of the mind, manonasha. And then destruction of the latent desire, vasana kshaya. Okay. In today's satsang, we will take up tattva jnana and vasana kshaya only. And in the next part 2, we will deal with the manonasha and also share glimpses of Jivan Mukta as per the description in this treatise by Swami Vidyaranya. Needless to say, when it comes to Jivan Mukta, certain descriptions from the sage of the Ananda Kutir and others bound to come, and some from his own state may come or may not come. So, Tattva Jnana, knowledge of reality. In Shiva Purana, Shiva said to Nanda, after the latter, Nanda cursed Daksha, Shiva is asking, who is this? Who are you? Who are these? In reality, I am all. Consider everything in this light. In vain did you curse the Brahmins, extracting the fundamental basis of the construction of the universe through the knowledge of reality, Tattva Jnana. Be enlightened and be self-assured, O intelligent one. Be free from anger and other emotions, says Shiva to Nanda. In this treatise, Tattva Jnana is established as the essential starting point of the spiritual journey. But it is not sufficient on its own. That is why that question he asked, is that enough or is something else required? The text makes the crucial point that a mere intellectual understanding of the non dual truth must be combined with the destruction of the mental attachments and habitual tendencies to achieve full liberation while living. Tattva is the realization of the Advaita Vedanta teaching that the individual self is not separate from the ultimate reality. Atman is not separate from Brahman. It is the ultimate knowledge that annihilates the root cause of all sufferings. The fundamental ignorance, avidya or ajnana of one's non-individual, non-dual nature. The knowledge transforms an individual's worldview, freeing them from the illusion of individuality and duality. All that we see is Brahman. This is the way to divinize life. This knowledge is considered essential for spiritual liberation and enlightenment, as it helps overcome the ignorance and attachment to the world. Oneness with the divine. A key aspect of Tattva Jnana is the realization that the self is one with the ultimate reality. The text affirms that a person can have this knowledge gained from studying the scriptures, Shravana, contemplating on them, Manana, but still not be fully liberated. Such a person is a jnani, but not a Jivan Mukta. Let us draw a reference from some of these sessions which we have dealt through sessions or through one-to-one posts or through WhatsApp posts or whatever. We know of the 10 blind man story, right? So ultimately, the ongoer, the witness, a guru, makes the 10th man realize that you have counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but you have left out yourself. You are that 10th man. You are that. I am I. The knowledge, Tattva Jnana. And the second inference we can draw from one of the sessions where Acharya described about a lion cub which was nurtured and brought up by a sheep. And the lion, though a lion, behaved exactly like a sheep. It was timid like a sheep. It never knew how to roar like a lion. Till the time a lion comes there and pulls the lion cub and convinces the lion cub it is a lion, it is not still convinced. Then it takes the lion cub to a little grown up now, to a pond where it shows its face and says, "Do you look like a sheep? You are the lion." And then instantly the cub roars like a lion. I am I. The ignorance that I am the lion does not mean that I was not the lion. I am, and I was ever the lion. And I ever will be the lion. I am I. One more example may not be covered in these sessions. A prince was brought up, was nurtured, and he grew in the small hut of a villager, of a farmer in the forest. And when he grew, and when the father, the father, not by birth, but As he grew up, this son, when the father got an assurance that he has grown up mentally and he has matured enough to understand the truth, he tells to that, "Oh child, you are never a farmer's son. You were and you will ever be the prince and to be king of this great kingdom." That knowledge that I am the king, it instantly makes that boy, that prince realize that yes, I am the king. Realization is knowledge at the knowledge level, and I am the king. But has he eradicated the latent impressions? Has he eradicated the mental vasanas and the background of having grown up as the farmer's son just by knowing that I am the king? The entire Nirvana Shatakam deals with all the netis, starting with Mano Buddhya Hankara Chittani Naham. Neti, Neti, I am not this, I am not this, I am not this, I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the uh, intellect, I am not the Panchakoshas, I am not a father, I am not a mother, I am not a son. And it keeps on in each of the six verses, it insists on what I am. Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham, Shivoham. Right? So I know that I am this unlimited awareness. I do not fear death because for the awareness there is neither birth nor death. Okay? Let the suffering come. Me, the pure awareness can never suffer. Is this knowing enough? Is knowing that I am Brahman, Shivoham enough? This knowing is a paradigm in simple language. It is a complete shift. It's a paradigm shift from the misapprehension that I am the Jiva, right? Is this paradigm shift enough? For most of the half cooked intellectual spiritual aspirants, they stop with this paradigm shift that I am not this. I am Shivoham, I am this divine awareness. They stop there. Their learning and their nididhyasana, the effect, everything stops there. And next birth, they have to take from where they left and to proceed on to just not know, but to be. Knowing must transform, translate, culminate into being. So what is the other thing required along with this paradigm shift from the misapprehension that I am this jiva, this little jiva with all my body, mind, intellect, vasanas, everything, shifting from that to the conviction that I am Brahman, Shivoham. What is required along with that? It is called ethical manifestation of the paradigm shift. Ethical manifestation. One of the realized masters said, realization is the manifestation of one's existence as pure awareness consciousness. Manifestation of one's own innate divinity. In our Sai organization, this is people hold the loudspeaker and say the only purpose of the life is to realize one's innate divine nature. No, that is not sufficient. This realization is the Tattva Jnana or the paradigm shift. What is required, this Swami has put it appropriately. He covered both the paradigm shift and the ethical manifestation when he used the word manifestation. It is not realizing only, it is the manifestation of your innate divinity after having realized to exist thus. And what are the obstacles between the paradigm shift and the ethical manifestation? What are the obstacles? What are the things which come in between the knowledge that I am Brahman and my existence as Brahman? Existing beyond the awareness of awareness. They are covered in this Jivan Mukti Viveka. These are the two steps he asked. May not be in these technical terms, but he wanted the answers in the simplest language. Maybe some of you would have given also, or some of you would have thought also, not to undermine your sadhana level. What are the obstacles between the paradigm shift and the ethical manifestation? What are the obstacles between knowing that I am Brahman and existing as that Brahman, pure awareness, consciousness? They are vasana kshaya, which should lead to manonasha. Only after these two things are achieved, one will reach the seventh jnana bhumika. One will reach the turiya state and even transcend the turiya state. One will exist as videha mukta. One crosses the knowledge, one crosses the awareness that I am I, and all that exists is that Vibhu Gita verse, Maha Maunam. He has nothing to say. Having said, whatever he teaches you, and he has been teaching you for 14 years, and whatever little he has been able to share the glimpses from his own state or that state, it is possible because of the sheer grace of Swami. Otherwise, not a word would emanate after having realized that state. So part 2 of the treatise, which we are covering today, deals with considering Vasana Kshaya as being the principal sadhana. First, the gross, impure desires which are clearly undesirable in society and are of a tamasic nature are to be removed. Then the rajasic subtle desires which are praised by society but which are also impure because they feed the ego have to be removed. Once the impure desires are removed, then the virtues too have to be abandoned by clinging on to just the chinmatra vasana. Finally, the chinmatra vasana, that is awareness of awareness, chinmatra vasana, purest vasana possible. Even the chinmatra vasana itself has to be given up in order to attain Jivan Mukti. Vasana Kshaya. Vasana is the cause of mental modification such as anger, rising up all of a sudden and without any thought of past happenings or future consequences. The effacement of vasanas means the elimination of the scope for the rise of anger and the like. Kama, Krodha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. Even when causes for such anger and the like exist, this is achieved by discrimination, which brings about pure vasanas such as control of the senses of the mind. Knowledge of reality means the conviction to the effect. All this is verily the Atman. The phenomenal world of forms, tastes, and the like is illusory. It has no real existence. As long as such a conviction has not been attained, forms, tastes, and the like will continue to be looked upon as real, and the mind will continue to undergo corresponding modifications. And as long as mental modifications continue, the conviction that Brahman alone is real will not take root. Mental modification is a very crucial thing to be attended by sadhakas after this session and after the second session, part 2. See, mind will exist. Even for the sage from the Ananda Kutir, otherwise, how could he establish that divine life society? How can he take up so many projects? So, the mind will exist even for a jnani, even for a Jivan Mukta. Maybe very less for a Videha Mukta. But the sign of a Jivan Mukta is that, or for you, the sign that you have reached the penultimate stage in your path of realization is that there should not be any modification in the mind. It should exist like the Manasa Sarovar, stilled lake, no modifications. It is used as and when required for performing your dharma in whatever ashrama you are out of the 4 ashramas. That's it. That way, mind without modifications is not actually the mind. It is the pure intellect. There is the difference between mind and intellect gets erased when there are no modifications. Transcending the mind or die mind, as Swami says, is dying the death of the modifications in the mind. Not the mind. The mind can never die. As long as your prana is flowing, as long as you are existing, the mind will be there. The intellect will be there. Of course, minus vasanas. That mind is equal to intellect. He went a further step in 2014 when a sadhaka was continuously having a confusion. He gave a specific session on mind is equal to consciousness. It may be in the Google Drive even now. Mind is consciousness. The pure mind, the pure intellect is nothing but consciousness. Knowledge of the reality will not arise until the mind becomes free from anger and the like, which are caused by vasanas. Conversely, the elimination of vasanas is not possible as long as false knowledge, which invests the causes of anger and other emotions, is not removed. When attachment and aversion are reduced to the minimum as a result of realization of the unreality, Jagat Mithya, of the unreality of the objective world, there arises a new sense of happiness. This is called Brahma Abhyasa, or the practice of Brahman. Not realized still. This is the means of effacing the latent impressions. When one sees everything as Brahman, there can be no reason for anger, fear, or any such emotions. To one seeking liberation, the aims are Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti. The Kathopanishad says, having been liberated from ignorance while still alive, he is altogether liberated on the fall of the body. One who has divine qualities attains liberation, while one with demonic qualities remains in bondage, as said in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16. You may refer to that verse. These qualities are described in the same chapter. When the evil vasanas inherent in a person from birth are eliminated by the cultivation of good vasanas, through personal effort, one has not still attained, even the good vasanas have to leave, but he is progressing, he or she is progressing steadily towards that state of Jivan Mukti. First, all impure vasanas have to be replaced by Ashubha vasanas, have to be replaced by Shubha vasanas. And then ultimately, even the Shubha vasanas have to leave. When he says, ultimately, even the awareness of awareness has to leave. He gave a brief session, extempore session in a sadhaka's kutir. The sadhaka will remember on beyond the Mahamaunam, where it just flowed as he was sitting. He said, at that state described in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad as beyond the manifest and the unmanifest. What is described in the Bhagavad Gita as Purushottama. Purushottama. He said, it dramatically described giving a form to the otherwise formless, natureless Mahamaunam. And he said, when that state is reached, the ultimate of the ultimate state is reached, then he said, the Mahamaunam state prostrates and begs to that jnani, to the Videha Mukta, Jivan Mukta, to free itself from that jnani. What does it mean? Even the relevance of Mahamaunam is gone. He is not in Mahamaunam, he is Mahamaunam. He is not aware of his state as pure consciousness. He is awareness. Vasanas are of two kinds, impure and pure. Impure vasanas result in continuation of the cycle of birth and death. The pure vasanas is like seeds sown after being roasted on fire, which do not sprout. It does not cause rebirth. The impure vasana is described as a form of very dense ignorance. Ignorance is that which veils avarna, which veils the distinction between the five sheets, panchakoshas, and the witness consciousness. This kind of vasana is spoken of as demonic nature in the chapter 16 of the Bhagavad Gita. Impure vasanas, further getting deeper, are of three kinds. This has been covered in the vasanas session. We will have a quick recap. Desire for unblemished reputation in the world, lokavasana. Obsession with learning, shastra vasana. And undue attachment to the body, deha vasana. The first one takes the form of I want to be always praised by everyone. This is impure because it is something impossible to achieve. You can never get the whole world to praise you because you are expecting a pure thing from the world of impure beings. Not all, but some of them. So you are searching for, as he always says, you are searching for right thing at the wrong place. How can the entire loka of beings, most of them being themselves imperfect, know the pure, perfect nature of a jnani? Impossible. They will see the jnani with their own eyes, with their own eyes of vasanas, of what they have seen in the jnani prior to his realization, or what they want to see in that jnani even after his realization. When they are not able to see that past jiva in that jnani, they go against that jnani. They spread rumors about that jnani. They build censures or criticisms about that jnani. Even Krishna was criticized while he was there in the human form. Then what are we? Even our Bhagavan was criticized. Purna Avatar, Krishna and Swami are Purna Avatar with 16 kalas, 16 kalas. Even they were criticized. So, expecting that the entire world will appreciate your state or your efforts is impossible. Searching for wrong thing. The obsession with learning Shastra Vasanas is of three kinds. Maybe this was not dealt in detail in the Vasana sessions. So those who are clear about the Vasana session, pay attention. Shastra Vasanas are of three kinds: addiction to study, addiction to many scriptural texts, and obsession with the mechanical observance of injunctions with regard to performance of rituals. All the three, we can draw inference from some of the sages or some of the beings who existed earlier. The first is exemplified by sage Bharadvaja, who was not satisfied with having devoted 3 successive lives to the study of Vedas and continued the same in his 4th life also. This is an impure vasana because it is not possible of achievement. Indra cured of him of this by explaining to him the impossibility of his undertaking and initiated him into the knowledge of the conditioned Brahman for the attainment of the higher end. See the paradox. He wants to be complete in the state of in the study of his Vedas, so he chooses to take further births, whereas the very essence of the Vedas is to experience that essence by which you are not born again. Here is a person with impure vasana, though a sage, willing to be born again to acquire more wisdom. What a paradox. These are all lifetime lessons for us. Addiction to many scriptural texts. Durvasa is the example of this. Once he went with the cartload of scriptural works to Lord Mahadeva. Narada ridiculed him by comparing him to a donkey carrying a huge load. Durvasa, as we know, we tell in Tamil, Mookukku mele koba. So Durvasa became angry and threw away the books into the ocean. Lord Mahadev then imparted to him the knowledge of the self, which does not come from the study alone. You can see in the 14.5 years of sessions imparted by him, where it is from a particular Upanishad, he cannot escape the text from the Upanishads. Of course, Kena Upanishad, he had to give those 6-7 verses. While he taught Brihadaranyaka Upanishad to few sadhakas, he had to quote those texts. Like that, many Upanishads. But then you can see that in the other sessions, he notes down what comes out of his own existence and out of the existence of some of the jnanis who are above board, like Tapovan Maharaj, like Shivanandaji Maharaj, and of course our Bhagavan who is above all. But he does not keep on quoting left and right from the scriptures. It is endless. You can never end, you can never complete that. When in the starting, when he said he would love to give verse by verse, that is not for giving you the knowledge of those verses or not to prove to you about his knowledge of those verses, but that journey going verse by verse is something which is beyond imagination, because a continuity is built up like a beautiful garland. Because one verse leads to the next verse leads to the next. That is what Ashtavakra Gita, 18 chapters, did exactly. Right? Obsession with injunctions relating to the performance of rites is exemplified by Nidaga, as described in the Vishnu Purana. Another example of this is Dashura, who because of the intensity of his desire to adhere to the injunctions, could not find any place in the whole world pure enough for the performance of rites. This mad desire for performing karma is also an impure vasana because it results in the person continuing in the cycle of repeated birth and death. Shastra vasana is also impure for another reason, namely, that is the cause of vanity or ego. Sadhakas, this is not to undermine, take a lesson today. This is not to undermine the relevance of rituals. But having been in the sessions till now, before you undertake any ritual from now on, try to gather knowledge of the relevance of those rituals. Like one way is to by heart and chant Purusha Sukta or the Sri Sukta accurately. But then, how beautiful it will be to chant Purusha Sukta after taking those 2-3 sessions on the Purusha Sukta. Learn the relevance of the rituals, and then, not enough, or link those relevance of those rituals with all the sessions given to you, and build up a beautiful link between the relevance and the essence given in the sessions, and then perform the ritual. It will be totally a shift from the way rituals are performed till now. Right. Dehavasanas is of 3 kinds. Again, looking upon the body as the self, concerned about making the body attractive, and desire to remove defects in the body. The first 2, looking upon the body as self, concern about making the body attractive, are clearly impure vasanas because they are obstacles to spiritual progress. The third, desire to remove defects, is impossible because the body is essentially improved, and so it is also an impure vasanas. All the 3 vasanas should therefore be given up by discriminating people, since they obstruct the rise of knowledge in the seekers and affect the permanence of the knowledge acquired by the knower. The impurity of the vasanas arising from a demonic nature, which take the form of hypocrisy, vanity, and the like, is well known, and so it goes without saying that this has to be destroyed. Okay. There is another kind of vasana known as Vishaya Vasana, which relates to the object of enjoyment, objects of enjoyment. By objects are meant sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. Mental vasana is that impression which is born of the desire of these. Vasanas relating to objects are impressions born out of actual enjoyment of desired things. It may be asked, how is it possible to give up vasanas which have no form, which may have no beginning or no end, which have no form? How to know that I am having vasana? When it is impossible for me to know the vasanas, how can I remove them? Intellectual question. Things which have form like dust can be swept away with a brush, but how to remove vasanas which have no form? The answer is that this can be done by cultivating friendship and with other virtues. These are described by Patanjali in his Yoga Sutra. Yoga Sutra, chapter 1, verse 33. Sutra 33 says, The mind becomes serene by the practice of friendship, compassion, joy, and indifference, respectively, towards those who are happy, those who are suffering, those who are virtuous, and those who are sinful. Don't differentiate between them. Develop an indifference towards all these dualities. By this, you can remove the impure vasana. Very practical. Let us see, he doesn't remember if he has given this Yoga Sutra. If he has not given, very soon he will give this, which will add up to your intake of how to remove the impure vasanas, which has no form. If one adopts a friendly disposition towards those who are happy and identifies himself with them to such an extent that he looks upon their happiness as his own, then he will not hanker after happiness and his mind will be calm and serene. It is a beginning stage where Sage Patanjali says, see all the people who are happy, or pray for all the people to be happy, and in their happiness, find your happiness. But ultimately, upon realization, the tables are turned with the Yatkataksha, Viveka Chudamani verse, where your happiness, your bliss, your state, like the cascade of moonbeam, it cools, it spreads, it is infectious. That is the ultimate stage. But this is the early stage where you are suffering from impure vasanas. Very effective. If one has compassion for every miserable being and feels that no one should experience sorrow of any kind, then too the mind will become serene. It has been said, life is as dear to all beings as it is to oneself. The wise feel compassion for every being, taking their own selves as the standard of comparison. Impure vasanas are seen to have existed even after dawn of knowledge, after the dawn of Tattva Jnana, in Yajnavalkya, Bhagirata, and others. Surprising. Yajnavalkya, as well as his opponents, Ushashta, Kahola, and others had vast pride of learning, as is evident from the fact that they entered into a debate with the desire for victory. Okay, it would be before he attained realization. After that, what is the Yajnavalkya? We know of the Yajnavalkya who teaches Maitreyi before taking the sannyasa. Who teaches Maitreyi about what is self. Okay. It cannot be said that they had only other knowledge and not knowledge of Brahman, because all the questions and answers in the debate were related to Brahman. Their knowledge of Brahman cannot be said to be only mediate, and not immediate, because in that case, your knowledge of Brahman arising from their statements would also be only mediate. Moreover, the questions put were concerned with the direct and immediate knowledge of Brahman. Dealing with this, Acharya Shankara, in his treatise Upadesha Sahasri, says that only a person who has given up the egoism that he is a knower of Brahman is a real knower of self and not others. That is transcending the awareness of awareness. In another treatise, Sri Sureshwaracharya says identification with the body, which is due to demonic delusion, is not possible for an enlightened person. If even an enlightened person has such delusion, then Brahman realization would be of no use. It follows from these that three, there cannot be pride of learning in an enlightened person. Here, there is a distinction between a Sthita Prajna or a Jivan Mukta and a mere knower of self. As regards the mere knower, Sureshwaracharya says in his Bhashya on the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, let attachment and the like remain. Their presence does not do any harm. What harm can avidya do when it is like a snake whose fangs poison has been removed? Desire, etc., arising from ignorance of the reality are the cause of bondage. But for a knower of the reality, these do not cause bondage, such as just as seeds which have been roasted cannot sprout even though they retain their awareness. So we see Swami Ma Amritanandamayi hugging so many devotees, and when they cry out of pain, she also cries. All this compassion, all this feeling for the others, they are all okay. As long as you have transcended the avidya totally. You carry with you that compassion, no problem. You carry with you the pain for the society, no problem. Okay, but you should have the clarity of what is real and what is unreal. We will cut short. What is the means of accomplishing the above three? That is, what does Vasanakshaya mean? It means the absence of scope for the rise of anger, even in the presence of corresponding or appropriate external circumstances, as a result of pure vasanas like self-control, etc., generated by Viveka, discrimination, being firmly rooted in the mind. So sage Vashishta says, O Rama, with free personal effort, accompanied by right discrimination, one should take up these three while keeping at a distance all desire for enjoyment. Absence of scope of anger, Viveka, firmly rooted in consciousness. All this you have to take up while keeping at a distance all desire for enjoyment. Personal effort means the undying enthusiasm in the form of a firm resolve to somehow or the other accomplish this goal. Discrimination stands for the conviction that stems from the appropriate analysis that Shavana Manana Nididhyasana alone are the means to jnana and the knowledge. Vidyaranya quotes from the Yoga Vashishta emphasizing the need to practice what all? Until these three, jnana, vasanakshaya and manonasha, three are not well attended to with sufficient and repeated trials, the condition of Jivan Mukti can never be realized, even at the end of 100 years. In the next part, we will deal with Mano Nasha. Chapter 3, 4, 5, part 3, 4, 5, glimpse, only very small glimpse. This 1 hour or whatever time of this session is the essence of chapter 1, 2, 3, which he has, if he has to take verse by verse, maybe it may take 6 months. That is why he is not able to cut short to 30 minutes, 40 minutes when it comes to at least giving to the core sadhakas. So, part 4 and part 5, we will deal with Manonasha and then glimpses of Jivan Mukti. You remember long back, he coined a new terminology, and in the AKK, he introduced AVKK. Avidya, Vasanas, Kama, Karma. You have to renounce karmas. Then for that, you have go back and renounce Kama. And Kama cannot be renounced unless and until you transcend avidya. And only after transcending the avidya, you can exist as that pure divine self. Okay. In between, he added vasanas. He said, karma can never be renounced unless and until you have kama. And he said, the kleshas represented by one of them, kama, attachment, can never be removed unless and until you are having a tinge of a little vasanas within you. Only after removing annihilation and removal of all vasanas, you will be able to transcend avidya, and then only upon transcending the avidya forever, you will be able to exist as pure self. Sivoham. So this transcending the avidya is achieved by destruction of the mind, mano nasha. Therefore, transcending the mind, which is the subject of the next chapter of this unique session, is very, very important. We end this unique session with a couple of quotes of Vidyaranya. Jnana too is impossible until the mind is entirely at rest, taken from chapter 2. And then what Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says about it, which is taken by Swami Vidyaranya in the chapter 2 of the Jivan Mukti Viveka. When all desires occupying the heart fall off entirely, then indeed does the mortal become immortal and realize Brahman even here. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Surely this session would require listening at least 2 times. Otherwise, everything will appear theoretical. When quoting the example of Yajnavalkya and quoting the example of few others, when he has clarified, or Swami Vidyaranya has clarified, that mere Tattvajnana, knowing that I am not the Jiva, I am this Brahman is not sufficient. Extending that to the entire session, merely knowing this session, merely being clear about this session is not enough. It is 25% of your absorbing this session. You have to live each expression in this session. The Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana of this session should result in your relentless, untiring, never ending efforts from today onwards to go beyond all the impure vasanas and to move towards pure vasanas with the aim to even transcend the pure vasanas and to exist as that self. If you search within yourself truthfully, there would be vasanas, because the removal of the vasanas and the transcending of the avidya, as though there is no time space gap interval between these two. When the vasanas are removed, avidya is transcended instantly at that time. Like in the Taittiriya Upanishad, he said, when one knows Brahman, all his desires are met at once. Refer to this SJAB session. Similarly, once the vasanas are removed or transcended totally, both impure and pure vasanas, the transcending of avidya or maya, the killing of maya or avidya happens at once without any time space gap. But then this avidya can never be transcended unless you have eradicated all the vasanas within you. So, if the avidya is there, that means if you have not realized self still till now, that means vasanas are there. Attend to their vasanas after listening to these two session 1, 2, 3 times. Make the session more practical rather than just knowing it and leaving it. And then work on the vasanas with all this fitness. Be rude to your vasanas, extremely rude to your vasanas. Remove them. And then the next lesson will come, Mano Nasha. And after the Mano Nasha, you exist. The distinction between the knower, the knowing, and the known is removed permanently. There is no, this is the one-way traffic, one-way route. There is no coming back to the world of vasanas or to the world of mental disturbances, or even to the world of knowing Brahman as a knowledge. Make this session most practical. That will happen only when you take notes in not even in the first, second time listening of this session. He can only tell you, he can only pray to you, prostrate to you. Whether you will take it up with such seriousness, that is totally up to you. The clue is given in this session itself. One of the acharyas have told, using your free will to the maximum extent and exercising your discrimination to the maximum extent, you have to make the session practical to remove all your vasanas. 2 weeks are given. And then, don't know. He's traveling after 2 weeks, though don't know, maybe even a month or so, because giving the Manonasha session next week will be too early. He has to give you time for grasping and for starting to practice this session. Let it take time. Maybe we will get 1 month this time. Right? Oh, Hari Om. Tat Sat.